What is up, guys? Welcome to kind of a different video. I haven't done a lot of how-to videos on the channel, especially Pokemon related ones in the past. Today we're going to go through how to submit your cards for grading with CGC grading services. This video will be covering everything in 2 steps. We'll be covering how to actually submit the cards online, going through the online form, and going through it step by step and showing you guys how easy it is to actually submit cards to CGC for grading. And then the second part of the video, we'll be talking about the different sleeves and cases you're going to need to be able to properly protect your cards when you ship them, and what CGC expects the cards to look like when they show up at their facilities. Lastly, we're going to talk about how to appropriately package your cards to keep them safe so that there's no damage between your house and the CGC services. Let's just jump right into it. All right, guys, now I'm going to show you step by step when you're on cgccomics.com how to go through and submit your cards for grading. Now, the first and most important thing to know is that you do have to join up as a member of CGC to send in cards from your home. Now, you can have a free account on CGC, but you can only submit cards during conventions if you have a free account. So you're gonna have to pay at least the $25, I believe it's annually, to have an associate account so that you can send in cards. And you get a few benefits from joining. You get, 5% off CGC grading tiers. You get some shipping kit vouchers, stuff like that. I signed up for the premium one. It's $150 a year. I knew that I was going to be sending in a lot of submissions this year, so it just made sense to me. You get 10% off the grading tiers, and you get a giant $150 credit with CGC. So there's 4 different, obviously, memberships to sign up for, but the only 3 that you can sign up for and actually send cards in from your home are these 3, the paid tiers, $25 to $299. All right, so once you signed in, you want to go to this little button up here, My CGC, and hit My Submissions. This will take you to the My Submissions tab. Now, you can view the status of your current submissions that are already out. I currently have 3 submissions out for grading, and I've received 3 back. So this is all here. It actually comes with a bunch of different information about your submissions. It tells you all of the subgrades and what the actual final grade of the card is here. These were Phoebe and Houndoom from Single Strike Master. Got lucky with those, actually got a 10. And here, if you click on the line item number, you can actually see all of the information about the card, and then you have some high quality scans that they put in here for you to be able to view what your card looked like, or if you're selling your card, it's easy to take these and put them on eBay as like the seller pictures. And there's a cert number on the card when you get it back that verifies that it's real, and then provides all this information to somebody who a prospective buyer, let's say. So another thing I want to talk about is actually the turnaround times, and when they say their expected turnaround times, I want to tell you what realistically that actually means from someone who has sent in quite a few CGC submissions here recently. So obviously, bulk is a max of 100 per item, and you need at least 50 cards to be able to send in. The fee is $9 per card, and right now it's 144 days. I can tell you a week ago, it was 108 days. So that is exponentially increasing as the days go by, which is kind of scary. Economy was in the same realm. It was about 108 days, 100 days, something like that. Now it's 142 days. So both of these, the cheaper tiers, are drastically increasing, which is fairly scary, but is kind of obvious that it was going to happen, that it was going to increase like this. This is kind of like the largest cutoff. It's like, do you want to see your cards this year? Send it standard. Do you want to see your cards next year? Send it economy or bulk. I would say, just a disclaimer and a warning, you're going to want to add about 30 days to each of these. Why is that? Because right now they're so backed up that they're not even scanning submissions in until a month after they're submitted. And that's just today. All right, back to actually submitting the card. So you want to go down here and you want to look for submission forms. Now, obviously, we're sending in trading cards, but there's also posters, comics, and magazines. They've been doing comics for a very long time. That's kind of their bread and butter. They also do, I think, like paper money and stuff like that, too. They got a whole bunch of different things that they grade. So we're going to go to trading cards. So when you click online form, it'll come up, and this is super easy. And this is why I think it's actually, apart from the money, like the barrier to entry for actually joining up as a member, it's super easy to submit cards, at least to CGC. I'm not sure about the other ones. So in the drop down, you have all these different options. You want to pick trading card. We're mailing into headquarters. We're not dropping off anywhere in a physical location. And we want grading. And then we hit next. And now this is where you input your card. So ours, it's a Pokemon card. Language is English. It is a Charizard. Charizard, baby. And you put in the number, or you find the number. This is a promo card, so it's going to be SWSH66. Perfect, it's already there. If you have a card that's not out yet, like the Phoebe and Houndoom, I had to actually put in a lot of this information. I had to add it new, a lot of this information, because they were so new when I sent them in. So I might have been the first ones to add that information in. I don't know. It is a Black Star promo, I believe. Yes. And 2020. So you have these different variants. So we can put this. It is a pre-release promo from Vivid Voltage. I do believe that will be printed on the label, or maybe on the back of the label when it comes in, which is pretty cool. And it's not the staff card. It's just the regular card. So they have all the variants that you might be able to see in there. If you're submitting old school cards from like the WotC era, like base set, for instance, they do have base set first edition, base set shadowless, base set unlimited. Like they have all of them for you to choose from, so there's no confusion. So declared value works different on CGC than it does on PSA, as far as I know. PSA wants you to estimate the value on what grade you think your card is going to get. And to me, that's a little fishy, because if I don't know a whole lot about grading and I'm grading with PSA and I assume that my card's going to be a 10, it could have an astronomical price, and you might have to pay more actually to get that card graded from the get-go, and then they might grade it like an 8 or a 9, but you don't get a refund for that. So it's a little fishy to me the way that PSA does it. The way that CGC does it is the declared value is the raw value of the card. So if I Google this Charizard Vivid Voltage promo card and I go to the eBay sold listings and I see that it's $120, for instance, I just put $120 and we hit next. And now we're going to pick a service. So there's multiple different services for different values of cards. Obviously, we can do any of these. We can do economy, standard, express, or walkthrough. That's because the value of the card I put over $100, so it can't go in bulk. Bulk is a maximum value of $100, raw $100, not graded $100. And then we have economy, standard, express, and walkthrough. Now, we'll talk about the current turnaround times for these in a minute, but I would send this standard because the turnaround time is around 30 some days, I think. And that's not so bad for me. Also, you can add subgrades, which I think are $7 if you're not at the tier that I'm at. You can see the prices here are a little bit different because my membership has the 10% off the grading tier, so it's a little bit less expensive. This would normally be $25. The subgrades would normally be $7, but you can add the subgrades to the card. Subgrades are really nice. They display on the label underneath the name, and it gives you the 4 different subgrades. So centering, surface, corners, and edges, and it tells you kind of where they ding the card down, where PSA doesn't do the subgrades. So when you get a PSA return, you don't really know if it got like a 7, why it got a 7, unless it's, you know, glaringly obvious. So I like doing the subgrades, and obviously a standard submission for the 30 days is nice. And we're going to add to cart. So you add that to cart, and it brings you back to the next card. And then you would go through and you would fill out each card that you have in your stack on this list. At the end of this process, when you have all your cards in the way that you want, you'd go to view cart, checkout. Here's our cart. All of your cards would display here. So if you put in like 25 cards, for instance, you could display it here. When you ship them and you stack your cards up and you package your cards, you want to put them in the same order that they show up on this list here. You'll get a packing slip as well that will show them in this order. You also want to put them in that order when you ship them. All right, so return method. So this is the way that you want CGC to ship the cards back to you. And I think the prices of these will change based on how many cards you have shipped, obviously. I have just chosen the cheapest one in the past, FedEx Ground. It's been fine. I've gotten, 3 submissions back using FedEx, and it's been totally fine so far. Lastly, you would pack and ship your cards to CGC, and CGC on the packing slip actually gives you the address that they want you to send it to, and then you would place the packing slip in the box, and you would have to go to an external service to actually ship the box. So you'd probably either have to go to the post office or go to USPS.com and buy a label to be able to ship it. All right, now that we've got the submitting part of this video out of the way, we're gonna move over to the desk and I'm gonna show you guys how to prepare, pack, and ship your cards to CGC to be graded. So the first thing we need to talk about is how to prepare your card for submitting to CGC or other grading companies. Now, there is like a recommended way of doing it, and then there are other things that you can do that are kind of frowned upon, but they are accepted by the grading companies to be able to use, mostly in terms of the materials that you use or the cases. Now, first, let's talk about sleeves. I do think it's pretty frowned upon to use a sleeve that's not completely clear on all sides. I do think they prefer that you use penny sleeves. I'm not even sure. I don't know if they'll turn away your submission if you use like some ETB sleeves, but you definitely shouldn't. I'm telling you that now. Don't use an ETB sleeve to send your card in for grading. Definitely get some penny sleeves. They're fairly easy to get. They're super cheap. That's why they're called penny sleeves. Definitely, I would say use these in general. I have heard from many people that these ETB sleeves, these pretty sleeves on the back, the ones that aren't clear, they can damage the card. I'm not 100% sure on that. I've heard from multiple people that they have experienced card damage from these the ETB sleeves. They are very cool, but might not be good for your more expensive cards. All right, next let's talk about what case you should use to send in. You should definitely, it's recommended that you use a card saver. For the longest time, PSA, for instance, wouldn't even take a top loader for a submission, but I think they do now. If it's the only thing that you have, I think you can submit cards using a top loader, but I would definitely recommend using a card saver one. Now, I've seen a lot of people ask in like live streams and stuff when people put cards in card sleevers, they're like, how do you do that? How do you do that so easily? I don't know if I do it easily, but I'll show you guys how I do it. So I like to make a little space in between the opening here with my finger, and then I just place the card in there and I push it as far down as I can get it, just naturally. And then I like to go back in again, make a little bit of space with my finger, take my other finger, my middle finger, and just push it down where I want it to go. And then boom, it is now in the card saver. Easy peasy. So in a lot of other videos like this, or people who are submitting their cards to CGC or PSA, you might see that they add a little bit of like a sticker tab. It's like a little sticky tab that sticks on, they actually stick it to the penny sleeve, and it sticks out of the card saver a little bit. Now, a lot of people say that they like to do this because it's a lot easier to remove the card for the grader. They can just grab the tab and they can pull it out. Now, I have heard from other reputable people, I would say, that they actually cut the cards out of the card savers, and that's why they don't actually send you your card savers or top loaders back after you get your card graded. You just get the slab. They don't actually send these things back to you. And I think that's because they actually damage these things to get them out. They safely cut around the card and they remove the card from the card saver that way. Now, I'm not 100% sure. You can let me know in the comments below. But I think a couple months ago, there was actually a question of whether or not PSA wanted you to keep adding the tabs or not. I'm not sure if that's a CGC specific thing where they cut around the card saver to remove the card, but it's definitely, if you think about it, it's definitely a much safer way to remove the card than to put your fingers in here and actually touch the card with your grubby fingers, especially if a CGC employee just got off lunch or something. I don't want them touching my card or even getting close to it. So I definitely would think that cutting the card out is a much safer option, and that you definitely don't need those tabs that a lot of people put on them to submit at least to CGC and possibly to PSA. So another thing you have to worry about when you're prepping your cards to ship and for submission in general is you have to make sure the cards stay in the order in which you have submitted them online. But they prefer that you have all the cards in the exact same order that they appear on the sheet. I think they're probably very organized over there, and they're going exactly card to sheet down the list. So you want to make sure that your submission, it has all the cards in the correct order, top down, that they will be looking at on the sheet. Last but not least, and probably the most important step of this process, is making sure that you pack your cards securely, especially if you're sending cards that are really expensive. I'm going to tell you the way that I like to do it, that I feel is safe for my cards. You can obviously let me know in the comments below any recommended way that you have for others as well. But what I like to do is, first, I like to use a box. I don't use bubble mailers for shipping and cards for grading. Not a big fan of that, because bubble mailers, although the cards are surrounded by the protective bubble packaging, it could still be bent. So depending on how aggressive your postal person is, there is the possibility for damage to the card if you're not careful. So I definitely like to use a box over a bubble mailer when it comes to submitting cards for grading. Now what I tend to do is have a small box. I'll actually take a bubble mailer like this. I'll put my cards in the bubble mailer, like so. I'll fold the bubble mailer. Now you have a pretty protective sleeve, I guess, for your cards. Now I would secure it with tape, and then I would place this into a box. I would also secure that to the box with tape and then surround it with more bubble wrap. You just want to make sure you're doing your best and that you know that you did your best when sending in the cards, so that if something does get damaged, you know it's most likely not on you. Alright guys, well that is it. I hope you learned something today. I hope I was able to show you just how easy it is to send cards into CGC to get them graded. I think the biggest barrier for entry for people will be that initial membership fee. I know that the middleman services are probably trustworthy. It's a lot of YouTubers and stuff that also use the graded cards then for content. They open them up and show them online and stuff. I don't know if I'm 100% in on it, especially because the $25 is really not that much money, and it's so easy to just submit the cards yourself. Well, that is it for me, guys. Hopefully you're more confident now sending in your cards for grading. Quick shout out to Chris Box, my one and only patron over on patreon.com. If you want to support the content a bit more monetarily, you can head over to patreon.com, sign up for the Gem Mint $5 a month tier, and you'll get a personal shout out on every video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.